Silent Power, Why Calm Always Wins. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. A hurricane makes headlines, but it's the stillness at its center that holds the true power. In a world addicted to noise, it's easy to mistake volume for strength. We're told to speak up, stand out, make our mark, louder, faster, bolder. But look closely. The people who truly influence the room aren't the ones raising their voices. They're the ones lowering the temperature. Calm isn't flashy. It doesn't posture or perform. But it's magnetic. The calm person in crisis doesn't disappear, they become the anchor. The quiet strategist in a noisy boardroom isn't overlooked, they're obeyed. The composed negotiator isn't bulldozed, they shape the deal. As the late author and speaker Jim Rohn once said, the stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. That's the essence of calm. It's not absence of tension, it's rootedness in the middle of it. This book is not about becoming passive, meek, or emotionally numb. It's about reclaiming a kind of power that doesn't need to shout. It's about learning to stay centered when the world spins sideways. Calm isn't who you are. It's how you train. It's how you breathe, pause, and choose your presence instead of reacting from panic. This is not a call to retreat. It's an invitation to rise quietly, intentionally, with clarity sharper than chaos. Because when everyone else is scrambling for control, your calm will be your advantage. Not noise. Not fury. Just presence. Silent power. That's what wins. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Loud Power. A lion doesn't announce its presence with noise. It simply enters, and the savannah adjusts. Somewhere along the way, we confused noise with authority. We started believing the one who speaks the most must know the most, that force equals influence, that whoever shouts the loudest wins. In boardrooms, relationships, social media feeds, volume became a proxy for value. But when you step back, you begin to see the cracks in that illusion. Loudness is often a mask. The overtalker is stalling for clarity. The aggressor is compensating for instability. The bluster is there to distract from the absence of depth. Just because something is loud doesn't mean it's strong. And just because something is quiet doesn't mean it lacks power. Real power doesn't need to perform. Think of the martial artist who deflects chaos with a single, fluid movement. Or the surgeon who works silently while others panic. These people aren't powered by adrenaline, they're powered by clarity. And clarity thrives in calm. Calm sees what noise distorts. In a heated discussion, the calm person isn't passive, they're calculating. While others escalate, they observe. While others defend, they listen. And in that listening, they gain leverage. Not because they said the most, but because they understood the most. This isn't new wisdom, it's ancient. Stoic philosophers preached it. Spiritual teachers embodied it. Even today's elite negotiators, military leaders, and crisis professionals are trained not to react but to respond. Because once you react, you've surrendered control. But when you stay calm, you keep the map while others wander lost in the storm. There's a strange paradox here. We chase loudness to feel heard, yet it's the calm presence that people lean into. Ever notice how a whisper in a loud room gets attention faster than a scream? Calm holds gravity. It draws attention not because it demands it, but because it deserves it. This is why so many burn out chasing power the wrong way. They mistake chaos for momentum. They believe movement equals progress. But without direction, noise just becomes friction. Calm, on the other hand, knows where it's going. It may move slower, but it moves with precision. It conserves energy, applies pressure only where needed, and doesn't lose itself in performance. Calm is not the absence of emotion, it's the ability to feel deeply without being hijacked by it. It's not cold or disconnected. In fact, it's deeply attuned. But it chooses presence over panic. It holds space rather than collapses under pressure. That is not weakness. That is mastery. The illusion of loud power is seductive. It flatters the ego. It gives the immediate high of dominance. But it rarely builds anything lasting. It wins arguments, not influence. It silences people, not inspires them. It burns hot and burns out. Calm wins because it's sustainable. Because it creates space for thinking when others are drowning in reaction. Because it doesn't trade respect for attention. And because it understands something loud power doesn't. Leadership is not about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself. So when tension rises, remember this: your ability to stay calm is your advantage. Not because it makes you better than others, but because it keeps you from becoming like them. In a world fueled by reactivity, calm isn't just a virtue, it's a competitive edge. Loudness often conceals insecurity. Calm reflects control. True power doesn't perform, it influences through presence. Calm listens, observes, and responds with clarity while others react. Where in your life have you mistaken loudness for strength, and what did it cost you? In your next tense moment, pause. Breathe. Say nothing for 5 seconds. Let calm lead. Chapter 2: The Chemistry of Calm. The body keeps score, but it also takes instructions. When you enter a high-stakes moment, a confrontation, a deadline, a sharp turn on the highway, your body reacts before your mind has time to process. Your heart races. Your breath shortens. Muscles tense. This is the ancient wiring of your nervous system. It's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, these are primal strategies for survival. But here's the problem: in the modern world, most threats aren't lions. They're emails. They're raised voices. They're thoughts. Your body can't always tell the difference. And unless you train it, you'll live at the mercy of a system designed for a jungle you don't live in. Calm, then, isn't just a mindset. It's a chemistry. A biological state that can be shaped, coached, and cultivated through repeated signals. Every time you respond with presence instead of panic, you're not just making a good choice, you're reprogramming your system. You're teaching your body a new baseline. The science backs this up. Breathwork isn't trendy, it's biology. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural brake pedal. It lowers cortisol, slows the heart, and brings blood back to the brain's decision-making centers. In other words, calm restores your ability to think clearly when it matters most. This is why some people in crisis don't freeze, they focus. Not because they're born calm, but because they've trained their chemistry to trust the moment. They've shown their nervous system, again and again, that not every spike in emotion requires an emergency response. Even posture plays a role. Stand grounded, and the body feels stable. Drop your shoulders, and the brain interprets safety. These microsignals speak louder to your system than most words ever could. You don't just feel calm, you signal calm. And those signals ripple out to others. Ever notice how one composed person can settle an entire room? That's nervous system leadership. But there's another layer. The thoughts you feed yourself, consciously or not, trigger the same chemical cascades. Tell yourself, I'm under attack, and your body prepares for battle. Tell yourself, this is uncomfortable, but I'm okay, and your body steadies. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about giving your system a lens of agency rather than alarm. The challenge is that modern life constantly pulls you in the opposite direction. Notifications train you to react. News trains you to panic. Hustle culture trains you to overextend. But training can be undone. And calm can be rebuilt, one signal, one breath, one response at a time. There's no magic here, just repetition. The same way your body learned to react, it can learn to reset. And the more you practice, the more calm becomes your new normal, not because life stops being stressful, but because you stop being ruled by it. Your chemistry doesn't just happen to you. You participate in it. Every reaction is an opportunity to reinforce old patterns or create new ones. That's the hidden power behind calm. It's not passive, it's biological leadership. It's how you shape the very system that shapes your experience. So next time your heart starts racing, don't just fight it. Guide it. Show your body it's safe. Speak in breaths. Stand like you belong. Think like a leader. Not for the sake of performance, but for the sake of presence. Because when you learn to calm your chemistry, you don't just change your body. You change your reality. Calm is a physiological state, not just a mindset. Breath, posture, and thoughts send powerful signals to your nervous system. Training calm rewires your baseline response to stress over time. What signals are you currently sending your nervous system in moments of tension? Practice 1 minute of slow, intentional breathing today. Inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6. Repeat. Chapter 3: Presence over Performance. Walk into any room and you'll notice it. Some people are performing, others are simply present. The performers are easy to spot. They scan for reactions, speak in polished sound bites, and seem to exist just slightly outside themselves, always adjusting, always anticipating. Their energy isn't grounded in the moment, it's chasing something. Approval, recognition, control. Presence is different. It doesn't chase. It doesn't audition. It arrives. Calm lives in presence. Not in pretending to be unbothered, but in the ability to be here, fully, without needing to prove anything. Presence doesn't mean perfection. It means you're not fragmented between past regrets and future fears. It means your attention is undivided, your nervous system is settled, and your identity isn't up for negotiation every time you enter a new space. Performance, on the other hand, is exhausting. It feeds on anxiety. What do they think of me? Am I doing this right? Should I speak now? The mind loops, the body tenses, and slowly you lose access to the very qualities that make you effective: clarity, intuition, steady energy. The louder the performance, the more distant the self becomes. This is why calm people often feel powerful without trying. Their presence holds weight. They're not wasting energy curating perception, they're busy being. That quiet confidence becomes a lighthouse in rooms filled with stormy egos. And others notice. Not because they're told to, but because something in their nervous system trusts it. It's easy to fall into performance when your worth feels negotiable. When your identity is outsourced to applause, metrics, or social cues, you learn to bend. You learn to craft versions of yourself that fit the moment. But calm doesn't bend to be accepted. It remains rooted and lets others adjust. The irony is that performers often don't realize they're performing. They're doing what they've been conditioned to do: manage impressions, avoid rejection, stay in control. But real control isn't external, it's internal. Calm knows that. Presence knows that. You don't control the room by controlling others. You influence the room by controlling yourself. The research agrees. Studies on emotional contagion show that in group settings, the person with the calmest nervous system often sets the tone. Not the loudest. Not the most dominant. The most regulated. When you walk in grounded, your presence whispers something powerful: safety. And safety creates space for truth, for trust, for clarity to emerge. This is especially true in leadership, parenting, negotiations, even conflict. The moment you shift from presence to performance, you lose the room. But when you anchor in presence, listening without defensiveness, speaking without rushing, holding space without collapsing, you become the calm in the storm. And people don't forget that. Presence can't be faked. That's what makes it rare. You can wear the right expression, say the right words, even mimic the right posture. But if your attention is fractured or your energy is anxious, people feel it. We're wired to sense authenticity. And authenticity lives in presence. Cultivating calm presence is a discipline. It requires you to feel your feet, steady your breath, and return, again and again, to the moment you're in. It's choosing not to perform, even when performance feels safer. It's trusting that who you are, when rooted, is enough. Because in a world of performers, your calm presence doesn't just stand out, it stands firm. Presence is calm embodied. Performance is anxiety disguised. True influence comes from grounded presence, not curated image. Calm presence creates trust, clarity, and quiet authority in any space. Where are you performing in your life instead of being fully present? In your next conversation, resist the urge to impress. Instead, practice listening without planning your next response. Be fully there. Chapter 4: The Pause That Powers You. Power isn't always in the push. Sometimes it's in the pause. There's a moment between stimulus and response, a sliver of space, often invisible, easily missed. Most people blow right past it. They react, snap, defend, interrupt. That moment is where calm lives. It's the pause. And it's more than silence, it's strategy. The pause doesn't mean inaction. It means intention. It's the breathe before the answer, the silence before the decision, the delay that prevents regret. It's where the mind catches up to the emotion. And in that brief space, you reclaim your agency. Think of a chess master. They don't panic after every opponent's move. They pause. Not out of hesitation, but calculation. Every decision is made with full view of the board. Now consider most human interactions, half-formed thoughts, knee-jerk replies, escalating tone. We sacrifice clarity for speed, and call it communication. The pause is what separates instinct from wisdom. Instinct says lash out. Wisdom says wait. Instinct says match their volume. Wisdom says lower yours. And the pause is where you make that call. Miss it, and you default to programming. Seize it, and you disrupt the cycle. There's a reason elite performers, athletes, speakers, surgeons train their pause. It's not just about staying calm. It's about precision. The baseball batter doesn't swing at everything. The world-class speaker doesn't fill every silence. They know the pause doesn't weaken the message, it sharpens it. In leadership, the pause is often the difference between reaction and reputation. An impulsive email, a careless word, a rushed judgment, these aren't character flaws, they're failures to pause. And once trust is broken, no amount of speed can rebuild it. The pause protects not only your decisions but your credibility. And yet, pausing is countercultural. We're told to answer quickly, move fast, never let the silence linger. But silence isn't empty. It's full of possibility. The pause gives you room to think, feel, choose. It's where your best self waits. Neuroscience backs this up. When you pause, even for a few seconds, you shift activity from the reactive amygdala to the rational prefrontal cortex. You move from emotional reflex to conscious choice. It's not just a mental trick, it's a physiological upgrade. This matters in everyday life. When someone criticizes you, the pause stops the spiral. When someone triggers you, the pause rewrites the pattern. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes it feels like holding a live wire. But if you can stay with it, just a breath longer, you often find clarity on the other side. And here's the truth few want to admit: reacting feels powerful, but it's not. Anyone can react. Animals react. Real power is the ability to not. To hold the tension. To wait without needing to win. To respond from groundedness, not ego. The pause isn't weakness. It's a flex. It signals control, maturity, depth. It says, I'm not run by emotion. I use emotion. And when I speak, it matters. Because I waited until I meant it. So the next time you feel heat rising, pause. When you're tempted to fire off the text, speak the jab, rush the yes, pause. Count to 3. Breathe through your feet. Let the urgency pass through without dictating your choice. That space you create may only last seconds. But those seconds can save relationships, careers, and your own peace of mind. The pause is not a delay, it's a decision-making tool. Pausing shifts you from reactivity to intentionality. Calm people don't react by default, they respond by design. When was the last time you regretted not pausing, and what might have changed if you had? Today, in any stressful moment, take a deliberate 3-second pause before speaking. Let calm go first. Chapter 5. Energy speaks before you do. Before you open your mouth, you've already said something. Walk into a room anxious, scattered, tense, people feel it. Walk in calm, grounded, steady, and people adjust. Words carry meaning, but energy carries truth. And in a world trained to hear noise, it's often the unspoken that speaks the loudest. Calm begins in your nervous system, but it doesn't end there. It radiates. Like heat from a flame or gravity from a planet, your internal state creates an atmosphere. You've felt it, the tension in a room before an argument starts. The peace some people carry like a silent shield. That's not magic. That's regulation. That's nervous system energy made visible. Science calls it neuroception, the subconscious scanning we do to detect safety or threat. Long before logic kicks in, our bodies are reading signals. Facial expressions, tone, micro movements, breath rhythm. The person who is truly calm doesn't have to announce it. Their body already has. This is why calm people often become emotional thermostats. Without speaking a word, they cool the heat. They create coherence where there was chaos. And it's not because they're better, it's because they're congruent. What they feel matches how they show up. No performance. No leaks. Just presence. But the opposite is also true. A person can say all the right things while their energy says the opposite. I'm fine, with clenched jaws and darting eyes. No problem. But their tone betrays resentment. We pick up on this dissonance even if we don't know how. The result? We don't trust what we hear, because the energy doesn't align. Calm energy doesn't just soothe others. It protects you. It keeps your decisions cleaner. It makes your presence clearer. When you walk into a meeting, a negotiation, a difficult conversation, you don't need to dominate, you just need to hold your own field. That's not metaphor. That's biology meeting intention. Think of calm energy like a tuning fork. It doesn't fight dissonance. It simply holds its own frequency until others begin to sync. This isn't about manipulation, it's about mastery. Not of others, but of your own state. The more regulated you are, the less you're thrown off by someone else's storm. That's the hidden power of calm. It makes you less reactive to other people's chaos and more effective in influencing the room. Not by overpowering, but by stabilizing. When your presence feels like gravity, others find their footing in it. To cultivate this, you have to do more than think calm thoughts. You have to become calm. That means training your breath, softening your posture, and noticing your internal speed. Are you rushing? Holding tension? Bracing for attack? Calm begins by noticing these cues and gently shifting them, not to fake peace, but to return to it. It's not always easy. When pressure rises, old patterns wake up. But calm energy is not the absence of stress, it's the ability to hold stress without transmitting it. That's leadership. That's emotional fluency. And in high-stakes spaces, it's the edge. So before your next important interaction, don't just prepare your words. Prepare your energy. Regulate your breath. Feel your feet. Let stillness rise before speech. Because long before you persuade with logic, you influence with presence. And in a world that's constantly yelling to be heard, calm energy doesn't need to raise its voice. It already speaks volumes. Your energy communicates before your words ever do. Calm energy influences others through coherence, not control. Regulating your nervous system makes your presence more impactful. What kind of energy do you bring into the spaces you enter, and how does it shape what happens there? Before your next conversation, take 1 minute to steady your breath and soften your body. Lead with your energy, not your urgency. Chapter 6: The Strength to Stay Still. Stillness is often mistaken for doing nothing. But in truth, it's one of the hardest things to do well. In a culture addicted to motion, stillness feels like a threat. We're told to hustle, to act, to keep moving or fall behind. Silence is uncomfortable. Pauses are suspicious. Inaction is weakness. So we keep running, even when we don't know where. Movement becomes a disguise for clarity, and urgency becomes a stand-in for importance. But calm doesn't rush to move. It has the strength to stay still. Stillness isn't laziness or indecision. It's the practiced restraint of someone who doesn't panic just because time is ticking. It's the self-trust to wait when everything inside screams, do something. It's the discipline to resist false urgency and the wisdom to know when the most powerful action is no action at all. Consider the archer. Before the release, there is a long moment of stillness, breath held, muscles steady, eyes focused. Movement in that moment ruins the shot. In the same way, calm people know that premature action often causes more damage than delay. They let the chaos pass. They let the noise settle. Then they act, not react. Stillness sharpens perception. It allows you to see what frantic motion would blur. It gives you space to observe patterns, detect emotion, question assumptions. Stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something important can happen, because the noise has stopped long enough for truth to be heard. This is especially vital in conflict. When emotions are flaring, silence becomes strategic. You don't have to meet every charge with a counterpunch. Sometimes, holding your ground in stillness is what shifts the dynamic. The other person expects a fight. Stillness denies them that script. It disarms. It resets the rhythm. In negotiation, stillness can be leverage. Say your piece, then go quiet. Let the silence do the talking. Most people rush to fill it, and often reveal more than they intended. The calm person doesn't fear the quiet. They use it. Not manipulatively, but masterfully. Stillness also creates a boundary. It says, I don't need to chase, to beg, to prove. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. This doesn't mean becoming rigid or indifferent. It means becoming deeply rooted, flexible but unshaken. Like a tree that bends in the wind but never forgets where its roots are. This is a form of self-respect that speaks louder than words. The person who can remain still in discomfort, who doesn't need to fill space to feel valuable, is the person who owns their energy. They're not afraid of their own company. They're not outsourcing their peace. They don't need the room's approval to feel grounded. Of course, staying still doesn't always feel noble. It often feels vulnerable. The pressure to act can be overwhelming. But not every situation requires your reaction. Some require your presence. Some require your discernment. And some require your stillness, because only in stillness can you hear the signal beneath the noise. Stillness doesn't mean the absence of engagement. It means full engagement without being pushed around by urgency or fear. It means allowing a moment to unfold without forcing your agenda into it. And that takes more strength than most realize. So the next time you feel the pull to speak too soon, decide too fast, move just to feel in control, pause. Breathe. Hold. Stay. Let the storm pass without stepping into it. Because in a world trained to flinch, stillness isn't surrender. It's dominance refined. Stillness is not weakness, it's a powerful form of self-control. Calm allows for clear perception and intentional action. In moments of pressure, stillness often becomes your greatest leverage. Where do you tend to move too quickly, and what might shift if you allowed stillness instead? Choose one moment today to remain still in discomfort, whether in a conversation, decision, or thought. Let presence replace panic. Chapter 7: Detachment is not indifference. To stay calm, you don't need to care less, you need to hold things differently. Detachment gets a bad reputation. It's often confused with indifference, emotional coldness, or giving up. But real detachment isn't about caring less. It's about caring clearly. It's the ability to engage fully without becoming entangled. To hold space without losing yourself in it. To love without control. To act without clinging. Indifference says this doesn't matter. Detachment says this matters deeply, but it doesn't own me. Calm requires this kind of mental discipline. Without it, you're pulled into every storm. Every insult becomes personal. Every delay feels like rejection. Every outcome becomes a referendum on your worth. You're tossed around by the shifting winds of circumstance and emotion. And in that state, calm becomes impossible, not because the world is too loud, but because you've tethered your peace to things you don't control. Detachment untangles that knot. It's the mindset of a skilled surfer. They don't control the waves, they master the board. They don't fight the ocean, they learn to ride it. In the same way, detachment isn't about removing yourself from life. It's about stepping into it with poise. You do your best, give your heart, speak your truth, and release the outcome. That last part is key. Release the outcome. You can't force someone to understand you. You can't guarantee success. You can't make people behave or events unfold on your timeline. What you can control is how you show up. Your integrity. Your effort. Your energy. And that's enough, because calm grows where control ends. This isn't passivity. It's power. It's seeing that your value doesn't fluctuate with circumstance. That your inner peace isn't a hostage of external results. It's knowing where your responsibility ends and reality begins. Detachment also protects your energy. When you're overattached, you live in constant emotional whiplash. One comment ruins your day. One setback shakes your identity. One unanswered message becomes a crisis. But when you detach, you create space to observe, to respond, to breathe. You still care. You're just not consumed. That's what makes calm people seem untouchable, not because they feel nothing, but because they don't grip things so tightly that they lose themselves. Their calm is born not from indifference, but from perspective. They've learned to let things be without letting things break them. This applies to ambition too. Detachment doesn't mean giving up on goals. It means pursuing them without needing them to define you. You work hard, aim high, dream big, but you don't tie your peace to the outcome. You let success add to you, not complete you. That subtle shift changes everything. In relationships, detachment brings clarity. You stop trying to control how others feel, fix their problems, or manage their perception of you. Instead, you meet them where they are, with presence, not pressure. And that presence is far more powerful than control ever was. None of this is easy. It takes practice to loosen the grip, to stay engaged without being engulfed. But each time you choose detachment, you reclaim a piece of yourself. And in that space, calm rises. So when things don't go your way, when people disappoint, when outcomes slip through your fingers, don't harden. Don't detach from feeling. Detach from clinging. Keep showing up with heart. Just don't lose it trying to hold what was never yours to control. Because when you hold things lightly, you carry them farther. And your calm becomes unshakable, not because life got easier, but because you stopped letting it shake you. Detachment isn't indifference, it's clarity without control. Calm grows when you release your grip on outcomes. You can care deeply and still remain free from emotional captivity. Where in your life are you gripping too tightly, and what might shift if you let go? Pick one outcome you've been overattached to. Today, practice releasing it, mentally, emotionally, or even symbolically. Let go. Stay calm. Chapter 8. The Discipline of Emotional Neutrality. Calm doesn't mean you don't feel, it means you don't feed everything you feel. There's a difference between experiencing emotion and becoming it. Most people blur the line. Anger arrives, and they are angry. Fear shows up, and it takes the wheel. One harsh word, one sideways glance, one bad moment, and the whole inner world spins out. It's not weakness. It's lack of training. Because emotional neutrality isn't natural. It's learned. Think of it like a referee in a heated game. Their job isn't to pick sides. It's to enforce structure, maintain clarity, and keep the energy contained. When they lose composure, chaos follows. But when they stay neutral, the game continues, even when tempers flare. Emotional neutrality is that kind of inner discipline. You don't become numb. You become discerning. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion. Suppression is pretending not to feel. Neutrality is feeling fully without letting the emotion hijack your behavior. You can acknowledge anger without acting from it. You can witness anxiety without letting it dictate your next move. Calm people don't deny their emotions, they manage the distance between emotion and expression. This space, the space between feeling and reacting, is where power lives. Without it, every situation owns you. Every insult triggers you. Every inconvenience derails you. But with it, you become harder to provoke and easier to trust. People sense when your presence isn't tethered to emotional weather. Of course, neutrality is misunderstood. Some think it's coldness or detachment. But true neutrality isn't checked out, it's checked in asterisk deeply. It's aware of what's rising without being ruled by it. It's knowing that not every fire deserves your fuel. Training emotional neutrality starts with observation. Notice your internal spikes. Someone says something sharp, do you tense, snap, escalate? A plan changes, do you spiral, sulk, complain? Those reactions are invitations. Not to judge yourself, but to create space. Can you pause before responding? Can you breathe before deciding? Can you stay steady without collapsing into drama? That's the work. It's not glamorous. No one applauds you for not overreacting. But over time, it builds a kind of quiet resilience that nothing else does. You become the person people look to when things get tense, not because you have all the answers, but because you don't add to the noise. Neutrality also protects clarity. Emotion narrows vision. When you're caught in frustration, your world shrinks to what's wrong. When you're soaked in anxiety, the future becomes a threat. Calm neutrality widens the lens. It lets you see context, nuance, timing. You stop operating from impulse and start responding with intelligence. This matters in everything: conversations, parenting, leadership, self-talk. If you meet every emotion with reaction, you live in constant volatility. But if you meet emotion with neutrality, you create room for wisdom to speak. None of this means you shouldn't feel deeply. Feel it all. But don't confuse expression with explosion. Don't confuse honesty with volatility. The calm person still feels anger, sadness, fear, but they choose how and when to move from those feelings. That's maturity. That's mastery. So the next time emotion surges, try this: don't judge it. Don't justify it. Just notice it. Give it space without giving it control. Let it rise. Let it pass. And when it does, ask yourself, what does the situation actually need from me now? Because calm doesn't come from the absence of emotion, it comes from knowing which emotions deserve a microphone, and which just need a moment to move through. Emotional neutrality is the space between feeling and reacting. Calm doesn't suppress emotion, it manages its expression with discipline. Responding with neutrality creates clarity, trust, and lasting influence. Which emotions tend to hijack your reactions, and what would neutrality look like in those moments? In your next emotional spike, pause. Name the emotion silently, take one breath, and choose not to act on it yet. Let clarity catch up. Chapter 9: When Calm Becomes Contagious. Some people enter a room and change the temperature. Not by force, not by words, but by presence. Their calm doesn't just hold them steady. It holds everyone steady. That's the quiet magic of emotional contagion. Human nervous systems are social. Like tuning forks, we tend to sync with those around us. Anxiety spreads. So does urgency. But so does calm. The most grounded person often becomes the emotional anchor. Not because they demand it, but because biology follows balance. It's why paramedics speak softly at the scene of an accident. Why seasoned leaders lower their voice when a room gets heated. The calm person signals safety, and safety is contagious. Others begin to breathe easier. Think clearer. The nervous system, always scanning for threat, catches the signal: we're okay here. You've felt this. The coworker who doesn't panic under pressure. The friend who listens without fixing. The stranger whose eye contact settles you. They don't need charisma. They have coherence. Their nervous system isn't leaking energy, it's containing it. And people feel that containment like warmth in a cold room. This is why calm is not selfish. It's service. When you regulate yourself, you help others regulate too. You offer an unspoken invitation: match me here. Not in words, but in state. In breath. In tone. In pace. The moment you drop your own panic, you give others permission to do the same. But here's the trap: most people unconsciously match the most intense energy in the room. Anger rises, and tension follows. One person rushes, and everyone speeds up. That's how chaos scales. Unless someone decides not to play along. Unless someone, without saying a word, chooses calm instead. That someone can be you. Being the calm one doesn't mean being passive. It means being immovable in your inner posture. It means showing up fully, but not letting the environment dictate your nervous system. It means carrying peace into rooms that forgot what peace felt like. This is leadership in its purest form. Not positional leadership, energetic leadership. Not a title, but a tone. People naturally follow the one who isn't flailing. Because in uncertain moments, We don't look for the loudest voice, we look for the steadiest presence. This plays out everywhere. A parent calming a child's tantrum without yelling. A teacher softening a classroom just by lowering their volume. A teammate grounding a tense meeting by slowing their breath and speaking with measured calm. No spotlight needed. Just steady influence. And it's not about perfection. Calm people still feel stress. They still have doubts. The difference is, they know where to place those feelings. They don't let them spill into the space. They hold their chaos without making it contagious. Of course, this isn't always easy. Being the calm one takes effort, especially when others want you to match their panic. But calm isn't about agreement. It's about alignment. You don't mirror their chaos. You model a better rhythm. Over time, your calm becomes your credibility. Not just because you're reliable, but because people feel better when they're around you. They think clearer. Speak softer. Breathe deeper. That's not a personality trait. That's a nervous system effect. And it's more powerful than any performance. So the next time a room feels tight, a conversation turns sharp, a situation escalates, try this. Lower your voice. Slow your breath. Drop your shoulders. Watch what happens. Your calm will do what panic never could. It will change the room. Calm energy is contagious and shapes the emotional tone of any environment. People naturally attune to the most regulated nervous system in the room. Choosing calm is both a personal anchor and a public service. Where in your life could your calm influence others more than your opinion ever could? In your next group setting, consciously slow your tone and breath. Let your calm lead and observe how others respond. Chapter 10. Choosing calm in the fire. It's easy to be calm when nothing's wrong. The real test comes when everything is. Pressure doesn't create your habits, it reveals them. In the middle of conflict, crisis, or uncertainty, your default setting steps forward. Some people tighten. Others lash out. Some freeze, shut down, or sprint into panic mode decisions. But a few, very few, stay still enough to see clearly. Not because they were born with stronger nerves, but because they trained for this moment long before it arrived. Calm in chaos isn't a fluke. It's a choice made again and again, until it becomes instinct. Choosing calm in the fire means remembering what's real. Stress creates distortion. It shrinks your perspective. It floods your body with urgency, making minor problems feel like collapse. But calm reclaims your lens. It says, slow down. Look again. Ask better questions. What matters right now? What can be done, not just reacted to? This is where clarity lives, not in the panic, but in the pause that follows. In high-pressure environments, emergency rooms, war zones, courtrooms, professionals don't rely on raw emotion. They rely on protocols, presence, and training. They know emotion has a place, but not the wheel. They don't wait to feel calm to act calmly. They act calmly to become calm. The behavior leads the biology. You can use the same approach. Even when your insides are screaming, you can still lower your voice. Even when the room is spinning, you can slow your breath. These are not signs of denial, they are acts of leadership. Because how you behave under fire defines what kind of stability you offer to others. There's no glamour in this kind of calm. No spotlight. No applause. Just the quiet strength of someone who doesn't abandon themselves when it gets loud. And that strength becomes magnetic. When others spiral, you become the steady one. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're not burning your energy trying to control what you can't. It's tempting to believe calm is only available once the storm passes. But that's the illusion. Calm isn't found after the fire, it's chosen in the middle of it. You decide in the mess to move from center. To hold space for discomfort. To respond from principle, not panic. This choice doesn't mean the situation becomes easier. The challenge remains. The stakes are still high. But your posture changes. And that shift makes all the difference. Because panic narrows your options. Calm expands them. Panic speeds you up. Calm slows the chaos just long enough for wisdom to surface. In conflict, choosing calm means listening when you want to interrupt. In emergencies, it means moving with precision instead of haste. In leadership, it means not absorbing everyone's anxiety as your own. And in personal storms, it means sitting with the ache without needing to escape it. Calm in the fire is not about being unaffected. It's about staying anchored while you're affected. It's about knowing that emotion can visit, but it doesn't get to redecorate the whole house. And here's the paradox. The more you practice this, the stronger you become, not harder, but sturdier. You trust yourself in any room, not because you control everything, but because you control yourself. That's the edge. That's the power. That's calm. So when the fire comes, and it will, don't wait for it to pass before you breathe. Breathe in it, stand in it, respond within it. That's not survival. That's self-mastery. Calm is most powerful when chosen under pressure, not after it. Responding calmly in crisis is a trained behavior, not a passive mood. Calm expands clarity and leadership when everything else contracts. What's one high-stress area in your life where you could replace reaction with calm response? In your next high-pressure moment, drop your shoulders, exhale slowly, and ask, what's the next clear step, not the fastest, but the wisest? Chapter 11. The Quiet Confidence That Lasts. Loud confidence is often the first to crack. It bluffs, it boasts, it needs applause to stand upright. But quiet confidence, the kind built in calm, is harder to shake. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need attention. It just is. You can feel it in someone who knows their value but doesn't advertise it. Who walks into a room without trying to prove anything. Who can speak softly, yet still hold the room. That's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's someone who has made peace with themselves, and doesn't need the world to co-sign it. This is where calm takes you. Beyond reactivity. Beyond performance. Beyond the exhausting need to be seen. When you build your life from the inside out, confidence becomes quiet because it no longer needs to be loud. Quiet confidence doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from trusting yourself to respond to whatever arises. It's not rooted in the illusion of control, but in the resilience of adaptability. You stop bracing for life and start moving with it. That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. You begin to make decisions without over-explaining. You set boundaries without burning bridges. You let others talk without needing to interrupt. You show up fully, even when you're misunderstood. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you're no longer controlled by needing to be right, validated, or admired. Calm gives rise to this confidence because it's built on stability. Not the kind that never wavers, but the kind that knows how to return to center. Again and again. No matter the noise. This kind of confidence holds under pressure. It doesn't need to dominate. It doesn't shrink either. It simply stands. It's the mountain in the storm. The still water beneath the wind. The one who doesn't flinch when others do. Quiet confidence allows you to walk away from what isn't aligned, not out of anger, but clarity. It allows you to say no without guilt, to stay silent without fear, to take up space without apology. And perhaps most important, it allows you to give others that same freedom. Because when you're no longer threatened by others' energy, opinions, or power, you don't need to compete. You can hold space, not steal it. You can celebrate without comparison. Lead without ego. Love without control. This isn't just personal growth, it's a form of leadership. In families, on teams, in conversations, quiet confidence shifts the dynamic. It invites truth. It calms egos. It holds tension without feeding it. Not because it's soft, but because it's secure. The world is loud with insecurity. But the calm, confident person is a rare presence. Not because they have nothing to prove, but because they've stopped needing to prove it. They've done the inner work. They've stayed with discomfort. They've trained their responses, shaped their energy, and chosen their stillness over and over again. And that's where this journey leads, not to perfection, but to presence. Not to becoming untouchable, but unshakable. You'll still feel. You'll still falter. But you'll carry a center strong enough to return to. A calm that no longer flees. A power that no longer shouts. Because in the end, it's not the loud who win. It's the clear, the steady, the grounded. And nothing is louder, longer, or more lasting than someone who leads from quiet confidence. Quiet confidence is rooted in calm, not performance. True confidence doesn't need to prove, it trusts. The strongest presence often speaks the softest and listens the most. Where have you been seeking loud confidence, and what might shift if you chose the quiet kind instead? Today, walk into one interaction without trying to prove anything. Let your calm speak for you. Let it be enough. Take care and be well.